pretty deep and pretty far along with this process. Yeah, we're almost to the finish line, I guess. And I think it's important that, I mean, we'll do more of this next week, but I think what's important is we start thinking about how to take the things that we're studying, the things that we're implementing, and thinking about them beyond this 8-week period. So, I think this week's reading coming into this week, it's been fun for me to go through it, right? Because, when you go through and you write a book, there's times where you're excited about everything you're writing, and there's other times where you're just tired of reading it, because I've read it a couple times. But when I was thinking about themes a little bit, I was like, a lot of what you guys were just reading is about respect. And so, like, the respect you want to have for pressure, the role that pressure plays in helping you be a better version of yourself. Like, I think a lot of us are seeing that through the coronavirus, that, hey, under duress, under weird circumstances, we're seeing how people lead, and we're seeing how pressure, impacts people. I think there's the pressure of focus. How do you stay in the zone for as long as humanly possible? Especially right now where, there, other than getting on calls on time, a lot of the normal methods of accountability aren't in place. And so it does really force an entrepreneurial development where we all have to manage ourselves, and we know whether we're getting up when we're supposed to get up, or whether we're, taking a couple extra breaks, or whether we're developing ourselves. And that's respecting the focus that's needed, right? And then there's time and coaching, and these are things that if we don't respect our time, we can't own it. And if we don't respect our time, someone else is going to be more than happy to take it and to use it. I mean, this is how people end up working for other people. They give up their time in exchange for money. And if you completely respect your time, then, and this is, I think, a common thread among all entrepreneurs, is because they respect their time so much, they are willing to do the work and the things they need to do to make sure that nobody else ever owns it. Again, that's a personal respect thought process. And then the last one, from the reading, is talking about everyone needs a coach. Again, I think respecting the fact that we don't know everything. I shared the story of when I was 29, and I was in a Vistage, peer-to-peer coaching group, and a guest speaker totally rattled my cage. And that idea of not being perfect, of being okay with being open to learning, being excited about how much better I could be in a few more years, was really helpful. And it gave me sort of, again, a respect for the process, a respect for my own development, a respect for how I communicate with people, and being okay knowing that I don't know everything. So I think a lot of those things are going to be really important for all of us to thrive coming out of this situation. Because I think what's been happening over the last 6 or 7 weeks, and what's going to continue to happen until we're all back to selling and team building, is a lot of us are really learning that we're capable of showing ourselves the kind of respect that's required to eventually lead others. And so I hope that everyone kind of takes that to heart, because, my feeling is a lot of the best owners that we've ever seen in this business are not owners yet. They're going to come through this pandemic and graduate this year or early next year, and they're going to be able to really operate as genuine entrepreneurs because of how they've had to learn how to respect their development, their coaching, their time, their habits, their systems through this whole thing. So I just think it's a very unique experience, and I hope you guys are really recognizing the value add that you guys are choosing to give yourselves right now. It's very, very cool. And then, this week, when I think about the reading of this week, like, hopefully a lot of you guys, I imagine there's not a whole lot of stuff that's worth it, but hopefully you guys are watching the Last Dance and the Jordan documentary. I mean, it's been very, very cool to watch that with my 10-year-old son because he loves basketball, and you know, he's getting to really understand, you know, Jordan. I mean, it's fantastic. And but this week makes me think of the third episode with Dennis Rodman. And there's a if you haven't watched it, I'm not really giving anything crazy away. It's not that big a deal. But there's a great part of that interview with Dennis Rodman where he talks about whoever took the shot, he knew the spin on the ball. He knew like where that rebound was going to go. He knew where to be. And I love watching him jump over somebody who's bigger than him and stronger than him and tip the ball 5 different times till he can grab that rebound because he was just more tenacious and he was in the right spot. And I think about the level of nerdiness that the great ones really have. And here's the thing. Jordan and those the really gifted ones, a lot of them, they're also nerds, right? Which is fantastic. But it's the guys like Rodman that show people like us that you don't have to have some crazy gift to be ultra successful. And so when I think about this week of this next level, right? I think when you guys are reading the chapter, the week around the first week of sales, I was like, hey, listen, you guys know this stuff. Think about how you teach it. When you guys read this week, I don't know if you guys do because it took me a while to really understand my craft at a high level. And well, I don't think anyone has to be the number one sales rep to lead a great team. Actually, I know for sure you don't need to be the number one sales rep. In fact, a lot of times that gets in the way of being a good coach. I do know you need to be in the top 5 to 10%. I do know that your paycheck should have 4 digits in it every single week. Do you need to make $2,200? No, but you need to make $1,100. You got to get $1,250. You got to get $1,030. You got to get $1,480. Like you need to be in that category, right? And so this week is a lot like the Dennis Rodman week. It's understanding the angles. It's understanding the little nuances that turn a no into a yes. The subtleties of being a great communicator in a sales capacity, and then eventually being able to transfer that over to your guys. And I missed that boat quite a bit when I was early in my career because I was only doing sales to get promoted. And I was only doing sales to get where I wanted to be, not because I wanted to do sales for the rest of my life. But I didn't understand that I was missing the respect factor. I was missing the respect of being unbelievable at sales to really grow my communication skills and to ultimately be able to really develop and coach other people doing sales at a high level. And so when I really did nerd out and get into the intricacies, it made me so much of a better coach. And then oddly enough, it also made me a lot more money in the field. And so kind of taking that here, that's what you guys will be reading this week coming up. Our kind of main topic is communication today. And so I do think that there's an important place to start with how sales communication and coaching communication intersect. So there are techniques that we learn in the field that we will do with some of our guys that will work short term, but not long term. So here's my example. If I'm constantly coaching people to a fear of loss, it will work. Short term, I can get someone that I'm coaching to take action right now based on some heavy fear of loss. It's just that I'm going to want to coach that person on something else later. And then again later. And again later. And they end up feeling manipulated. I mean, make no mistake. Like, I love words that sound negative that don't have to be negative, okay? In sales, we manipulate people. Now, if you take that as a pull-out quote, that sounds terrible. But what that is to change or get someone to understand a thought process and to take action. You know, exactly what a sale is. Now, we need to do it with values. We need to do it with an understanding. And I've told customers no before where I didn't think something made sense for them. So I'm not saying to sell without a soul. Like, that's what gives sales sometimes a bad reputation. But the idea of getting someone to make a decision they weren't planning to make is an impulse sale. And as we develop and grow that communication skill set, we just have to realize that with people that we coach, we have to be able to give them more than that. We're not coaching people to a transaction. We're not coaching people to a one-time decision. And so I really want to kind of think a couple of those strategies through, because if we're going to keep developing as great communicators, I mean, listen, I was speaking with Vera about this last week on just the dynamics of how the consultants communicate with each other and all of the room for improvement. Well, you're talking about people who've been communicating at a high level for a long time and, I mean, not fully functional, in a lot of ways, dysfunctional. And those are some of the best communicators, period. So this is one of those things, it's kind of like listening, where if you're even okay at it, people are going to think you're amazing, because so many people are just fundamentally bad with their communication skills. So I want to kind of talk through a couple of those things. Again, I wanted to kind of share, we focus a lot on sales, and we have to recognize there's a difference in coaching our people. And so I want to go through a couple thought processes that have definitely served me well, and that I definitely think about when I approach coaching people, okay? So one of the first principles that I operate to is I want to win the war, not the battle. I want to win the war, not the battle. So let's talk about what that means. I'm not willing to damage a relationship to be right. Now, have I done that in the past? Of course. That's how I know it's not the right way to do it today. Okay. So, but I'm not willing to do that with people that I coach. I was on a call recently, and I swear I answered the same question from 3 different people, like literally back to back to back. And it was something that I had already covered 10 minutes earlier in the call. And one of the owners, my org, sent me a message going, your patience, I guess, is why you earn lots of overrides and stuff like that. He's like, I can't believe you just had, and I'm, well, here's the deal. I could shut people down. I could have a harsh tone. I could force my opinion on someone. None of those things are going to teach that person that it feels good to talk to me. None of those things are going to teach that person that they want to come back to me for more coaching. And listen, there's lots of resources out there. If you don't coach someone correctly, they go to somebody else. They don't wait around for you to get it right. So a perfect example, as you got, you know, some of the stuff that the owners are working through right now. I know some owners on this call. You know, this SBA loan is complicated. The amount of misinformation that's out there is unbelievable. Well, the good news is that because with a lot of my top guys, we've created trust, we've created openness. They've gotten information from different people who they respect that hasn't been great information or that helpful. Instead of acting on it, they bring it to me. Hey, I heard this. Hey, we were on a call today. This person said this. What do you think? And so we're able to actually move forward productively because we have these open communication channels. And I think it's so important that you guys create that with your guys. So often I get questions about, hey, what should I do with this person? How should I coach them on this? Have you asked them? Like, why do you have to figure all those things out? Why don't you partner with your guys? If you treat people like you value their opinions and you treat people like you want to work on things together, guess what happens? They feel valued and you work on things together. They share their concerns with you and you can help them with them. So I want to play the long game. Anything that you're going to build has to be built to last. And part of the long game is I want great people. Well, great people require great coaching and great communication. So it's not good enough to give people a nice little quick answer and move on because I don't have the time. I'm trying to win the war. I look at some of the people that I've worked with for the longest amount of time and the trust that we've been able to develop. I mean, I couldn't value it more. And it allows us to disagree productively. It allows us to explore different opinions and different ideas in a way that allows for some ingenuity and new thoughts to enter the area. If people think they're going to get shut down, they don't think they're going to be heard, they take that elsewhere. So that's a huge piece. Another important piece is something that I know that I struggle with, and I think, most of us struggle with. I got to develop some empathy. If you get into the world of emotional intelligence, or if you read the book Leadership and Self-Deception, unbelievable book, like fantastic. And it's all about great communication, and it's about empathy and understanding the people that we're working with. If I can bring that to my communication, right? Jamie's running workshops right now on Covey's principles. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Well, how often do we do that? How often do we go into a situation going, okay, it's a newer owner, a little scared right now because he's never seen a situation like this. I get that the tone's not great because he's nervous. Well, I'm not going to be bugged by that. Why? If I put myself in his shoes, I understand it. I get it. And then when I go to have that conversation, it's a little different, right? If you've got an entry-level salesperson that you're training and they've never done any sale at all before, it seems pretty reasonable to me that they'd be concerned if they're any good at this. Now, does that mean they have no like we make these big, profound judgments on people that we've known for a couple days? Shoot, even a couple weeks sometimes. Well, if I communicate from judgment, judgments are final. If I communicate from judgment, I am unwilling to take new information in and redefine how I think about that person. So if I'm going to be a great communicator, I've got to have some empathy to understand where they're at. And then what I want to do is I want to form opinions, because we can change opinions no problem. New evidence allows us to move our opinions. But when we get judgmental and decide this person on my team is lazy, whatever they do that counters that judgment will be ignored. And anything that they do that even resembles what we've already judged them to be will be highlighted. Well, imagine how crappy it would be to go into a conversation with someone who's already made those judgments. You might not be able to put your finger on it, but it's not going to feel right to you. So if you think about these principles, you can be an unbelievable communicator through thinking through, I'm playing the long game. Okay, that's one. Where are they at? How are they coming into this dialogue? Okay, that empathy is a big one. Okay, I've got to make sure I don't make judgments. I don't know everything yet. Probably ever. So I got to I have some opinions, I got some ideas, but I need evidence. So then another couple things with being a great communicator is you've got to really be aware of your how. You got to be aware of your how. So probably the largest negotiation I've ever brokered happened 2 days ago between my son and my daughter. They're at each other's throats. They got some agreement they tried to work out. I don't know. I went back and forth. I swear to God, I told my wife after, I'm like, NAFTA would have been way easier to renegotiate than this. I was talking to my son. He's just such a hammer, such a hammer. And I'm like, do you realize you'd get everything you wanted if you literally just approach this reasonably? If you just brought your tone down, the volume down, you can say everything you want to say, but just with nicer words, you'd get everything you want. So we got to that point eventually. And it's awesome. It's awesome watching how well people can communicate when they just want to communicate with respect. Calm. Calm is a big piece of all of this. You know, I've had to communicate through a couple challenging situations, and I think about Hurricane Harvey, and I think about obviously this whole pandemic, and I think about what does being flustered help somebody with? What does being loud help somebody with? Now I go back I remember early in my career, I would do that kind of stuff all the time. And it would work to a certain degree short term. You jump on somebody that you're training and coaching, you'll get a better response the next day. The day after, you may not get a shot because they may not be there. And, in a sales environment, we're building volunteer armies. Knowing how easy it is for people to quit, we don't have the benefit of being the sports coach who just screams at everybody. Like Bill Belichick would be awful in our business. People they all quit. Nobody want to play for him. I'm out. He doesn't have the captive audience. That military general who's screaming and belittling people, that works because they signed a 4-year deal and they can't go anywhere. In the volunteer team building world, those styles are horrendous. They don't work at all. You need more of a Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr kind of an approach. You got to connect, understand the individual. And here's what's interesting about a lot of these things. It's a higher bar, okay? It's definitely a higher bar. It's a much, much more enjoyable experience. To sit down with somebody and not try to, have the gotcha conversation. I'm going to sit down with this person and tell them why they're doing all these things wrong. Like, good for you, I guess. I don't know. Like, that's not great coaching. That is great. I'm going to blow this person up and make sure they understand that I'm right and they're wrong. That's true. But that isn't the kind of dynamic that people should feel great about. So the way in which we talk to people, if we don't talk to people with respect, they are not going to give us respect back. If we're raising our voice at people and being difficult, all we're going to get are difficult situations. And the most meaningful conversations are long term. So being calm, being prepared, thinking through where ultimately their goals are and what their background is that they've come into the situation with is vital for being a great communicator in a coaching capacity. So the coach has to be the most calm and has to be the most aware of how the other person feels. Listen, I'm a high D, okay? Which means in my mind, my instincts are feelings are for the weak. Okay? That's how I'm wired. It's like, let's go, results. Okay? It doesn't matter that that's my preference. That doesn't matter at all. What matters is that I help somebody else get to their goals. So back to the Dennis Rodman thing. Phil Jackson lets him go to Vegas for a couple days and go crazy. I mean, it's a bold move. It's a bold move. But he wasn't trying to make people do it his way. He understood who Dennis Rodman was. He understood how to coach him. He knew how to communicate with him. He thought about who he was. He wasn't playing the short term. This is my practice. How dare you? He was playing that we want to win another title, playing the long game. He wasn't judgmental. I'm sure he had opinions about a player who needed to take a vacation in the middle of the season. I'm sure he didn't do that as a player. But think of the courage it takes as a coach to communicate in a way that works specifically for him when you've got someone else like Jordan who obviously would never want that type of communication. That's a great coach. And I think that we all have this ability in ourselves to really coach people at a high level. I know it. I know it. Because in so many different aspects of our lives, we all have that great teacher that just somehow spoke to us differently than other teachers. Yes, because I remember, my favorite teacher, I had two teachers. One of them constantly was sending me home to do essays, and I was getting in trouble for screwing around and talking too much. And the other one just like worked with me and connected with me in a way where it has a lot to do with why I even pursued writing, because I had this great connection. And these were the two teachers that were influencing me at a certain point in my life. I was the same person. I just had I had a very negative approach with one and an extremely positive approach with the other. They were both equally qualified to teach. So think about that. Who are you with the guys you're coaching? If you're being put in a spot where you coach people, the qualification part is there. But what is it like to be coached by you? And I know we're kind of wrapping up here. Let's just go through those final couple things. Let's just recap it. If someone could say, hey, this person coaching me, they're always thinking long term about my goals and thinking about where we want to go. They're always calm. They're always prepared. They're not judgmental. They listen. They ask me deeper questions. We're partners. They ask me for my ideas and my thoughts. They deliver their message in a way that feels good to me. And then, hey, because of all these things, they're competent and we get results. Seriously, describe somebody who doesn't want to be coached by that person. We all do. That's exactly what we all want. So I really want to challenge everybody to start thinking through, hey, as we get back to normal business, whatever normal is, I don't know. We just get back to business, maybe is the way to put it. Start thinking about the one-on-ones that you're going to do, and not just what you're going to cover, but how you're going to deliver it. Start thinking about how you connect with your guys and what you could be doing to connect with them more. Start thinking about the conversations that you normally have and where you want them to go a year or 2 years down the road. And I get it. We want to hit those short-term goals. But I promise you, if we're playing the long game and doing these things right, the short-term goals take care of themselves. So, hey, let's have a big week, huh? You know, I think with May here, you know, I'm excited. I'm looking at my calendar. I got like, all right, 4 more weeks until we should be kind of selling maybe. Could be 5, who knows. But, you know, I think we got to be mentally really getting ourselves geeked up and ready to go. So, yeah, let's murder this week, huh? Let's really get after it. Let's dial up the intensity. And then next week we'll kind of do our closing call. And, yeah, I appreciate you guys. So have an awesome day. And we'll until we talk next, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.